All right. Welcome back to day two. This is the Lunch and Learn series. We kicked it off yesterday. That was day one, but we are talking about this for 2 weeks. So little topics, little things you can do every single day. And the goal is to help you achieve fat loss, especially if you are a busy working mom, because I want to tell you what actually works. Today's topic is really about what doesn't work and then what to do instead. But this is like my overall topic. Let's go ahead and jump into today's title. So, these are things that I know people are being told that are healthy habits, but they're actually kind of slowing down your results. Um, and I'll explain why. I will also give you this kind of statement at the beginning that obviously it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has their own background, like what they've been trying in the past. They have their own constraints of like what they need to work around. And so in certain cases, I could see this working for some people, like some of the quote unquote mistakes. But this is more generic. So the main things that I see and why they're getting in the way of seeing fat loss, of seeing that weight loss goal. So I also want to do a disclaimer at the beginning because when you see this and you're like, oh, I need to fix all these things, especially if you're listening in every single day or tuning back into the replays every single day. And I don't want you to feel like, oh, I have to do all of this all at once, all this week, because then you get really potentially obsessed, you get overwhelmed, chances are you don't stick to it and you need to stick to it. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul. It's more of like adding in a good habit this week, adding in another good habit next week, and that is much more sustainable. I am going to drop some links because number one, I know that that's the best way to get things to you. What I will say, so you can also see this. This is my Google Doc, and I'm just keeping this as a living document. So you'll see under every single topic, every single day, this was yesterday. Here's the replay link. I'll put today's replay link there when I'm finished, but there are also a couple guides that I'm going to refer you to. So if you don't have them already, and some of you do, I'll put it in the chat. I just was giving myself a reminder. It says drop this link in the chat. So if you are watching the replay and you can't find the link because the chat is not available, you will be able to find it in the description below. So that's where to find things. And in that main Google Doc, you'll be able to find everything all in one place because I don't like overwhelm. I like to have things simple for you so you can find everything. So that's where you'll find links. But I wanted to share this because we're going to go through this, but I have it all written down. So you won't notice the little notes in the top because you don't necessarily have to take notes. You could just download this and it's all written down for you. We'll walk through each of these. So they're numbered, numbers 1 through 5. I'll explain why it doesn't make sense and what to do instead for each one. And sometimes there's links, like this one has a smoothie guide. So the first quote unquote healthy habit that I see, and this is specifically for women in perimenopause, approaching perimenopause, so let's say roughly 35 to 50, this can work for certain people. Usually works for like people in their 20s. Um, could work for bodybuilders in certain cases, and then certain other groups of people. But it doesn't work for the most part for the people that I see as clients. So there are groups of people intermittent fasting works. What it is, just to explain this to you, intermittent fasting is usually a period they do like a 16 to 8. There's a couple other windows where you don't eat for 16 hours and you only eat within an 8-hour block. So typically you're awake for 12, 14, 16 hours. And so for a period when you wake up and typically in the morning, you don't eat, and then maybe you don't eat for a window before bed. So it depends. Everyone has their own opinions and sharing why their window makes sense. But typically, what I see is that women say, oh, I'm intermittent fasting, and then they skip breakfast and then they don't eat until lunch. And so they're awake, um, possibly going through the most stressful part of their day, which is waking up, getting dressed, getting kids dressed, packing lunches, maybe working out, doing all these things fasted. And they do this, and then they're starving at lunch. Or even worse, what happens is they haven't gotten enough fuel for the day. So at the end of the day, whether it's dinner or after dinner, it's like 9 p.m., they are ravenous. They're super hungry. And then what happens is that they go into the pantry and they eat the entire bag of chips, or they sit, open the freezer and eat the entire pint of ice cream. And so it usually backfires. Even if that like grubbing out part doesn't happen, the part that is really important is that you aren't getting enough fuel in the morning. And the morning tends to be a stressful time. If you look at the numbers, it is the time of day where cortisol is the highest naturally, and that's designed that way on purpose. But it could be higher anxiety. It could be all these things are really high and through the roof and a lot going on. And during that time when you need the energy and you need the resources, you aren't providing it to your body. So what your body says, oh, resources are scarce. I am starving. I need to hold on to everything. I need to slow down my digestion. Um, and then we kind of go into that fight or flight. However, that's kind of the opposite of what we want to happen. We want to have all day lasting energy, and that starts in the morning when we need it the most. So what do we do? It is a simple in theory, I know, but in theory, what we should do every day is eat breakfast. I know that's hard when we have busy schedules. I used to be a teacher. We used to have to be out of the house at 6:30, drop the kids at daycare, get to work by 7:15, and then we would have our whole day, and I wouldn't have lunch till like 1 o'clock that day. So it's a really long time, and it, like, when you're busy, you're not thinking about eating. So the easiest solution, and you see this in the picture and you see this with the smoothie guide, the easiest thing to do is to make a smoothie in the morning. Number one, it's a good way to get a complete source of all of your nutrients. I love to put protein in smoothies, so you're not just getting like a sugar spike from the fruit, but you have produce in there, carbs for energy. You have all of these whole foods. I love to also see greens, by the way, in there, a little bit of healthy fats. Like you would have a complete meal. But number two, it takes like 2 minutes to make, right? When you have everything, you have a nice organized smoothie station, you can blend it all together and you can make it in 2 minutes, rush out the door, drink it on the way to work. Or even when you get to your desk, you keep going. Um, so smoothies for the win. Yes, other breakfasts can work, but when you're in a go, this is definitely my favorite go-to. So don't skip breakfast, have a smoothie. Summary there. All right, number two. The second biggest mistake that I see is that people are like, oh, I just need to burn a lot of calories. I'm going to be super healthy. I'm going to go to the gym 5, 6 days a week. I'm going to run on the treadmill. I'm going to walk on this Stairmaster. I'm going to take all my spin classes. Maybe you're going to Orange Theory, which is a lot of cardio. And so you're doing cardio, but you're not building muscle. You're not doing any strength training. This looks different, right? It doesn't have to be lifting, sitting at the squat rack and deadlifting hundreds of pounds. Like you don't have to do this in the same way that the bros do it. But especially in perimenopause, we need to protect our muscle. We actually want to build muscle so that we don't lose bone density. We don't have that bad posture. We can actually focus on our muscles and toning up. Like that is going to help with losing weight as well. So, how do we do this? Strength training. This is a very vast, and I can't even begin to explain it all in the short video, but there are a lot of options for strength training. You can do this by body weight. I won't do this on camera right now, but you could do air squats. You could do calf raises just by going up and down. You could do push-ups. You could do sit-ups. You don't need any setup. If you are at home, and I know many of my audience, you're like, I don't have time to go to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym either. You can do this in 20 or 30 minutes at home. If you have bands or even just 5, 10 pound dumbbells, 3 pound dumbbells, you can do a lot with just a little bit of equipment. You don't need a fancy gym. You don't need to even go to the gym. You can do a lot with a little. But I would say over time, you do want to move to heavier weights as you get stronger. And so progressively overloading your muscles, getting stronger, is going to help you continue seeing results. but you don't have to start there, especially if you're not working out. So again, this is not a one size fits all, like everyone needs to do this workout, but strength training is going to give you a lot quicker results than just doing cardio by itself. So where do you go with this? I don't know. Look up on YouTube, look up different workouts, go to a class, have a trainer develop a program for you. There are lots of ways to do this, but finding something that builds muscle is really, really key here. Number three, and this was one of my personal downfalls. Like I know I feel attacked when I say this because this was like my story. And so I know protein bars are very common. We see them as being a very easy source of protein, especially when you're told, hey, track your macros. Make sure you're getting 150 plus grams of protein, right? Protein is king. Eat your protein bars. And your protein bars very conveniently have that label on them. Oh, this has 20 grams of protein. Oh, this has whatever, 20, 30 grams of protein, whatever it is. However, your body is perceiving this more like a processed food. It doesn't signal it as real food, and it's probably not going to fill you up. So you're probably still going to be hungry later, and then you have the chance to overeat. But also because it is processed and they tend to have like chocolate and gumming agents and certain things in them, like you can see all the like nougat or whatever that's in there, it tends to actually slow down your digestion. And so when I eat protein bars, like I will very occasionally now, but I know that I'm going to feel constipated the next day, just going there with it. So know that protein bars are an option. I would say maybe once a month, twice a month, but it shouldn't be an everyday option for you because there are better sources of protein, whole food protein, lean sources of protein. So we're talking about like real meat, beans, we're talking about quinoa, like those types of whole foods are going to be a lot better for digestion and overall nutrients than something in a package, just truly. So what do you do instead? You aim for your balanced meals every day, ideally 3 meals a day. If you need to get more protein, you could add in some snacks. You could add in your protein shake there. Um, these are some examples here: veggies and hummus, apples and nut butter, leftovers from dinner, adding snacks in wherever you need to get to your protein goals. But the number of a protein goal, I don't think achieving it through protein bars it's not the best idea overall. All right. Number four, eat enough food. I'll move my picture so you can see these beautiful plates right here. We will be talking about this later on in the series. We'll be talking about balanced meals. So I'll go into this more depth. But what I see is that women have been starving themselves for years. And they're thinking, hey, if I eat 1,200 calories, I should lose weight. However, the mistake is that if you're in a calorie deficit forever, you're going to stall out your metabolism. It's going to slow down. And ultimately, it's not going to help you get enough nutrients. It's not the healthiest thing you could do. So, what do we do instead? If you are doing a calorie deficit, that can be helpful in your weight loss journey, but also building and going up to a higher calorie amount and healing your body is important. So, calorie deficit as well as a build phase. Eating real food, as you can see in these pictures, is also really essential. So you'll notice there's protein in these. I don't know if that's a cucumber. Maybe there's not protein in that top one, but I see chicken here. I see chicken there. Different types of protein. You might have beans. You might, vegetarian options are awesome as well. There are lots of different types of protein, but you also see lots of veggies. You see carbs in there. So carbs, I don't know if that's beans, can't tell exactly from the picture, but I love to see carrots. I love to see sweet potatoes, quinoa, gluten-free grains. Those are great sources of carbs and healthy fats. That could be a tablespoon or two of salad dressing, a little oil and vinegar. It could come from avocado. It could come from other places as well, right? But eating real food overall is the answer there. I'll go more into depth on this, but eating enough food is really key. So not eating like a rabbit and just eating the lettuce, like having a full meal 3 times a day, super, super important. Number five, last but not least, keto and Atkins diet and low carb, everything. They will work. They will work. That's the worst part about it is you will see low carb diets work for people and they will drop weight really quickly. But Unfortunately, unfortunately, they don't last forever. So usually, I would say for a period of 3 to 6 weeks, people can lose weight by not eating carbs, and then typically they cave and they gain it all back, and it's just not helpful for them. And that is kind of in line with how our body works because carbs are energy and we need energy to function. So usually what I see is people that avoid carbs have really low energy levels as well. And that's something we want to fix. We want you to feel high energy. We want you to feel good going through your day. And so I'm always going to recommend that you include carbs at least at certain meals of your day. And so I have certain clients, they don't always eat as many carbs at dinner, or we could look at carb cycling. There are different ways to adjust this on an individual level. But generally, I would recommend including whole food carbs. So you see them here, right? You see carrots, you see potatoes. There are other carbs that are great as well, but generally about a half cup to 1 cup of carbs per meal, 3 times a day, right? Getting those whole balanced meals. I do recommend generally gluten-free carbs. I will say gluten tends to be a food sensitivity. People don't respond as well in average, not necessarily you watching this, but I tend to recommend gluten-free carbs. So I will say that as much as possible, I think that will be helpful for you too. So recap, I know that's a lot. It's like, wow, how do I change all of these things if you haven't been doing them? Try to choose one of them, right? That feels realistic. Pay attention to it this week. You don't even necessarily need to change it, but you're like, oh, yeah, I really have been skipping breakfast every day. And then maybe next week you add that in, right? So try to just pay attention to one of these things. If you notice, hey, I do have more energy when I eat breakfast, then keep up with it, right? Like that is something you can do. Read through the Five Healthy Habits, the PDF, talking through all that. There's more information in there, but sometimes just listening to it can be really helpful. Pick up my smoothie guide, try a new smoothie this week. Try one single thing, right? That is sustainable. So one thing, see if it helps. Tomorrow, we'll be diving into a different topic, moving away from nutrition for the moment and talking about stress and how that impacts fat loss. Um, Stress is just as important to look at as nutrition is. So with that, what I'll do is hit end on the recording, stop my share, and I will be around to answer any questions. So talk to you soon.